Welcome to episode 50 of Accessible Finance, where we demystify personal financial topics and answer your questions so you leave saying, I get it now. I'm Eric Johns.
And I'm Rachel John.
Let's dive in.
All right, happy 50th episode, Eric.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we do
You
it.
too.
Thank you. Okay, so we actually had somebody write in on behalf of their parents. So there's
Interesting.
some,
Got it.
there are some
Polls?
possibly, and I think it was best guesstimates. It was a concerned,
Well, thanks for writing in and keep them coming.
that's true.
Appreciate it.
It was a concerned child, financially independent, not
Got it.
worried about like inheritance, but wanting to make sure that the parents will be okay in retirement.
All right.
So concerned that there may be some mistakes that they have been making. So the couple that his parents are 58 and 56.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the concerns that they have,
I'm going questions first. Got it.
sure. The son is concerned that they have insufficient retirement savings as retirement's approaching.
Go. Okay.
And that
That's pretty
they
common.
are carrying high interest credit card debt while they're nearing retirement.
Yeah,
Don't
that's not good.
seem super duper
Concern?
interested in paying off right now. And so the questions that he had basically were what kinds of strategies would help to increase retirement savings in retirement accounts
Okay.
as nearing retirement. How to prioritize paying off the credit card debt while simultaneously trying to boost those retirement accounts,
Got it.
right? Like how to prioritize that.
Sure. That's good.
And then what
Good question.
kind of investment strategies may help them for retirement? How should you be thinking about investment strategies as you're nearing retirement?
Got it.
So son basically reached out and said, look, like my parents don't think that I know what I'm talking about. I would just like to know that I'm like not
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Sure.
So the details that he provided were that parents have about 60,000 in savings
Okay.
and 10,000 in checking.
Okay. Do we know the savings rate?
No, I would assume
Savings, you said
it's
60K?
60. Yeah. There is 300,000 currently in a 401k.
What was the checking?
Checking was 10.
Okay.
There's 300,000 in a 401k currently
Okay.
and 50 in an IRA.
Got it.
The son says that the house is worth about $500,000,
Okay.
but there is a mortgage balance of about 200,000.
Okay.
Did not specify the mortgage rate. Probably
Okay.
does not know. There,
It's a big house for not a lot of savings.
well, the income they're making about 240,000.
Whoa.
But they spend about 200,000 a year.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay. That's a problem.
which is primary concern that son had. Number one,
Yeah.
it said that the parents had zero interest in changing anything related to that.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
and
Great.
then the credit card debt's about $20,000 at a 15% rate. Is what he said. He saw the credit card bill come in the mail, had a conversation with them, started uncovering some more things that were concerning,
Okay.
and ended up reaching out. In talking to them, he said that they had specified to him, the parents specified that their goal was to save $1 million in their retirement accounts by age 65. Again, they're currently 58, 56. So in 7 years,
Okay.
we want to save $1 million. At the same time, we've talked about this and the fact that somewhere along the line, there was this notion that if you have $1 million saved up, you're good for
Right.
retirement. And we
that's a
debunked
magic
that
number. Yeah.
really
It's not gonna work.
quickly,
Right. That's
especially at these spending patterns.
exactly. So I won't even do the calculator on how much they would need to save annually to hit $1 million because I don't actually believe that's relevant. Right?
And
$1 million's not going
we could still say, like, let's say hypothetically that in 7 years they could easily save up $1 million, right? Let's say their savings rate is sufficient enough. They currently have 300 or 350, so they want to save up an extra 650. Let's say
Right.
that they're able to do that.
And if they're withdrawing, if we're going to just back of the envelope,
Yeah.
4% distribution rate on $1 million is 40K that they're generating from their retirement accounts, and that's pre-tax. So
And they're used to
35
spending
even?
200.
Right.
200.
Social Security, assuming they get Social Security, that'll bridge some of the gap. But boy, is there going to be a shortfall. I mean, we're talking like $100,000 shortfall in
It's
what Social Security
concerning.
plus their retirement accounts are going to pay and what they're spending. They're going to have a dramatic change in their lifestyle.
And I think this is one of those situations that's super interesting because you're coming with a lot of information. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of this. And so you think you've got your ducks in a row, you're organized, you're ready to have one conversation. When in reality, the conversation that needs to happen
It's a
isn't
spending
about this at
conversation.
all.
No,
Right.
it's
It's
really
cash
not. It's
flow.
all cash flow.
So let's talk like theoretically in
Okay.
similar situations without these specific numbers first to try to address some of these key questions that are probably relevant to other people in the same boat.
Okay.
So again, the first one was like, what kinds of strategies would help increase retirement savings in the remaining years before retirement? So let's say that you're 58, 56, 58. You're looking to retire in the next 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
What are some um, ideas or strategies that you should be doing? Because again, at age 56 and 58, if you've got 300,000 in a 401k and 50 in an IRA,
Right. Either they just came into this income and level of earnings, or maybe they were, yeah, I don't know what was going on. Maybe they just weren't contributing
not
at all.
participating for a
Right. Just not
while,
participating
right?
for the majority of their working careers.
Mhm.
We would
Those
want
are
to know what the
really low
plans are like. We
balances.
want to be getting full employer match,
Mhm.
but we're assuming they're doing that because at least now they're, attuned to the fact that their retirement savings is going to be woefully inadequate. Maybe they don't
Correct.
know that yet, and that's just a conversation to have. Like, hey guys, look, rubber's meeting the road, and it's we're doing the we're doing the math, and it doesn't add up here.
Sounded like they knew, it sounded like they were aware that the account was underfunded,
Hmm.
as was evidenced by the fact that they wanted to increase their retirement savings to 1 million, right?
Sure,
So that's wonderful that you've acknowledged that as an area of improvement because we seem to have a blind spot to some of the other areas
sure,
of improvement that are
sure.
needed. So it's a huge step in the right direction. But again, we're talking like you can increase your savings, but we got to increase it somehow.
Right,
So something's got to change.
right. So that's going to be the conversation. But we said what strategies, right?
Correct.
First, everything is spend less, right? Like if we're just looking at your income's 240, your spending's 200, that 40 is probably going to taxes. So you're saving like nothing.
Yeah.
So we need to have a cash flow conversation, but assuming that they do, let's assume that they're able to spend less dollars and they're
Mhm.
like, look, just tell me the most effective way to save at this point. We can maximize our contributions to 401ks, assuming that their active and their current employer has a retirement plan.
Right.
Right, it has to be there. If not, then you could still do things, but you can't, maximize a contribution to a
Participate
plan that
in
doesn't exist.
exactly,
You can't
exactly.
participate in a plan that doesn't exist,
My
right?
understanding is that they are currently
In the
in a
401k.
situation with
Okay.
an active
So we
401k.
want to ensure that both of them are getting the match, and then we're going to have the spouse with the more advantageous plan stuff it to the limit. Okay. And what that limit is for, since they're over 50, if they're not subject to the $23,000 contribution limit
Limit.
in 2024. They actually get the additional, the stepped up contribution limit, which is 30,500 if you're over 50. So they can contribute, or the spouse with a better plan can defer $30,500 from their salary into the plan. That'll help them with their tax brackets. Maybe we'll be discussing Roth conversions between their suggested retirement and their RMDs at 73. It's likely that we'll be suggesting something like, hey, look, guys, you're going to have to work till 70, or at least the older of the two. So 58 is going to be
Yeah.
working till 70. Maybe the wife is the younger spouse. She gets to retire at 68. We would talk about that. We would run the math. But the idea is that defer right now. Um, then we're probably going to backdoor Roth both of them, assuming, well, they have 50K in an IRA. We need to know whose IRA that is. We may convert now. We look at that. But if not, if the 401k plans are good, we can actually roll the four. Sorry, this is getting kind of granular, and I didn't say yet on this episode, but should have. This is not advice. Please don't act on this.
Correct.
But if we're thinking ballpark, what should you guys be looking at? This is it.
Kind of actively brainstorming a situation where we have some information, not all of the information needed by any stretch.
Right.
But I imagine it's not
So
a
just yes, right.
one-off situation for some people. Yeah.
So not advice, general education. What are you going to want to do?
Right.
What are your options? You can roll your IRA into an active 401k, assuming that the plans are good.
Yeah.
How are they good? Another episode, another conversation. But roll it into a 401k, and now you can do backdoor Roth. That means both of you can. I want to say the limits. It's 7K for under 50. I think it's 8K over 50. But anyway, so you can now backdoor Roth is what's is what it's referred to as. That means make a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA and then convert it to a Roth in the same year.
Yeah.
So you just do it, you let the money settle, and then you can roll it over, right? And there's differences, marginal differences of opinions of how long the money has to be in there, but not engaging in tax advice or tax planning right now. Um, Savings though, max the 401k,
Yeah.
right? Probably consider backdoor Roth contributions or just Roth contributions, depending on, well, your income's 240. If we're contributing to the 401k, we'll probably knock ourselves back down under the contribution limits for a Roth. So you could just do straight Roth contributions based on your earnings
Hmm.
right now, assuming this holds up.
I think that, you had touched on something that I think really opens up the door of just how many levers are involved in this conversation as well. Like, you talked about potentially having the older one, right, 58, work until 70 as opposed to 65, right? So that is one of the ways that you can essentially extend that runway that you've got.
That is a lever, yeah.
Exactly. Spending less. And again, having the conversation with someone like, okay, you guys need to spend less. That's not how that conversation goes. It's the
Right,
main
right.
takeaway. But like when we do cash flow analysis with clients, we're getting incredibly granular and looking at, are there things that you're spending money on that you don't know? Are there ways to save stuff? Sometimes money's coming out of investment management places that you don't realize it's coming out of.
Mhm.
You may have subscriptions that you don't realize are ineffective.
Right.
You may not be using the best credit cards that are available to you. You may have $20,000 in credit card debt that you're paying 15%
Right.
APY on, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of things that go into that. So saying spend less, like foregoing that Monday cup of
Yeah, it's a
coffee
small
at
conversation.
Starbucks is probably not making the dent that you might hope it is. But that's not to say that please continue going every day. But
Right.
like there are lots and lots of conversations to have around like how do you spend less? Where can you spend less?
Right, but while both spouses are actively employed or actively yeah, they're employed, they have earned
Yep.
income, and they're active participants in their employer plans, there are definitely tax advantage ways for them to save right now.
Perfect. Perfect. And so exactly that would be where whoever they're working with would want to see what the 401k plans look like, what the investment opportunities look like to understand which one is the
Correct.
more optimal plan to start putting the
Exactly.
money into. Also, I think that is sometimes I think because the 401ks are um, individualized, right? Like it's got your own name. It
Hmm.
can feel really weird being like, I'm going to put my community funds into like Eric's 401k.
Right.
And it can feel really, really scratchy. And so, of course, you know, you would want to look at your state laws, but if you're using communal funds, then typically that would end up falling under communal
Hmm.
assets. Okay, so second question that he had touched on was how to prioritize paying off the high interest credit card debt versus boosting retirement contributions. Like,
Okay.
let's say that you can't fully pay off the credit card or fully do retirement, right? Like, how do you prioritize those two things?
Well, they have 60K in savings, and I think you said somewhere around 10K in checking, right?
Yeah, it was
And
60 in
then
savings, 10 in checking.
20K of credit card debt.
Correct.
They should pay off the credit card debt right now today with 60K in savings, and then they have 40K in savings and 10K in checking.
Hmm.
Full stop. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
Sorry. The
Why though?
general education, that is what you should do. Hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
that is what you should do. That is not advice.
We are not.
Uh,
My
our
my
CCO,
friends, please don't do that.
who
Yes,
is me,
exactly.
will be very mad at me for saying that so aggressively and clearly. Um,
Exactly. But so overall, right, when we see that you've got credit card debt that you're just kind of riding with an
yeah,
interest rate,
stop
when you've
riding.
got 15% on
Yeah,
it,
you're not getting that in your savings account. I can promise you
correct.
that much.
And I think that is a really important way to look at it is what is the opportunity cost you're giving up by paying 15% here as opposed to investing it
You just
somewhere.
said opportunity cost. Oh man, I'm happy. What a day.
I'm
Well
like,
done.
learning.
Well
But
done.
it's true. It's true. I mean, 15% is really high. Really high.
That's
And if you're
egregious.
just riding, and right now it's 20,000, right? But
Right.
again, without knowing spending patterns, theoretically, it could be much larger balances at
Right.
times. Um,
It's possible. I mean, these are the reported numbers, the spending of 20K, but
correct,
they
correct.
could be
It's
off. It could be
son's
more.
best guess.
It could be more
Um,
given the savings that we have accumulated at,
yes.
these ages. So
But no, it was funny. It was funny. I think the son was really entertaining just because, like I said, he's financially independent and was essentially like, look, I'm really worried about my parents. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't want to have to
he
take
doesn't want
care
to
of
foot those
them.
bills.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
don't blame him.
And so I think he tried to deep dive into whatever he could find to be
Yeah,
like, okay, this is worse than I thought.
sure.
So okay, paying off that credit card debt is probably like action number one,
Correct.
based
It's top
upon
of the
the
list.
hypothetical information that we
Hypothetically,
have.
that's action one.
And then, okay, the last question that he really had was, what kind of investment strategies would better prepare them for retirement? At the same time, he doesn't know. So, like, he had general numbers for the 401k and the IRA,
Okay.
doesn't know what it's invested in or what
What's
it
actually
means.
in? Okay.
Correct. So we can't really compare it to what's there, but it was more of like a how should we be thinking about how this money should be invested if we're making a conscious effort to start putting more into that 401k.
Hmm.
I want to make sure that we're allocating it appropriately.
Got it. I mean, you got to evaluate the investments, the options that you have,
Correct.
and then we're going to have a risk capacity and risk tolerance conversation, which you've probably heard us use those two words before. Um, so risk tolerance is what risk you're comfortable taking. Like if the market goes down 20%, am I going to panic
Yeah.
and sell if my whole portfolio just went down 20%? Without, if you're 100% in
Yeah.
equities kind of a thing. Versus, maybe I'm comfortable with a 10, right? Like I'm comfortable 50-50
Hmm.
and that's what I'm looking at. So anyway, we have to have a risk tolerance conversation, then we have to have a risk capacity, which is how much risk do you need to take to achieve your goals?
Currently, on our for our hypothetical situation, they likely need to take
Currently,
some significant
currently
risks.
we're on Tesla calls.
Well, I was going to say, I
But
would
no, we would
also
never,
now,
ever.
I was
Okay,
just going
that.
to say, I would be very wary because if you're somebody who seems, I hate to use the word desperate, but somewhat
A
nervous.
little bit behind
And
your savings.
correct. And you're looking for advice on where to invest. You're
Right.
going to have all of those sharks in
Right,
the
right,
water.
right. Definitely not.
Everyone who's got a hedge fund's coming to find you.
Yeah, VUL policies,
Yeah.
universal
Your
lifestyle.
friend who knows something big is about to happen
Yeah,
with GameStop might give you.
right. We're not going on meme
Correct.
stocks or anything of
Correct.
that nature.
If you're having
Certainly not
somebody
looking at options of
recommend
Bitcoin.
what to invest in without having a conversation with you about risk tolerance and risk
Mhm.
capacity and what you're comfortable investing in, that's a red flag for me.
Right. Your time horizon is still reasonably long here if we're talking like 12 years to 70.
Right. If we're talking to 70. If you're dead set on 65, it's a bit shorter,
Right, right, right.
but
We
you're
got to have that
still
conversation though, because if you're dead set on 65 and you retire at 65, it's probably not going to look that great for you.
correct.
You're going to be
You're still
spending
talking
like 100K. That's half of what
seven-ish.
you're currently spending.
Right.
Good
Exactly. Well, you're
luck.
still talking 7 years
You
away,
still have mortgage payments.
but
You still got
7 years
200K on
goes
the
by
mortgage.
pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So just broadly speaking, I mean, our investment philosophy here is,
Yeah.
semi-strong efficient market hypothesis, modern portfolio theory. We like academia, so we're going to be invested in globally diversified, efficient portfolios, tax efficient
Yeah.
portfolios, right? So that's generally what we'd be talking about, and we'd be talking about percentages and allocations based on your risk tolerance
Yeah.
and risk capacity in this case. So,
Absolutely.
we'd be having those conversations.
And I just want to give a quick shout out to, I'm not using names for privacy reasons, but to, let's say, call him Brian, to Brian,
Thanks, Brian.
because when Brian brought it to us before even really verbalizing what his concerns were or questions that he wanted us to really answer, um, the two mistakes that he really labeled as what he felt his parents were making were pretty spot on. And again, his concern was that they were had insufficient retirement savings as their retirement approached. He was really worried about them carrying high interest credit card debt while nearing retirement.
Yeah,
Brian's parents are very likely not the only people in this situation. But the sooner that you're able to identify that as something that you may potentially be in the habit of,
right.
the easier it is to fix.
Exactly correct.
Yeah.
Exactly correct. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
That's good. But yeah, so good luck. Definitely, I would recommend finding a person to work with.
Yeah,
Mm.
that would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
Might even need a financial coach
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
help them with their spending a bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, so if you enjoyed today's episode, please review the show. And if you have any topics you'd like discussed or financial problems you'd like solved, reach out to us at podcast at
You're struggling.
equilibriumfp.com
Yep.
or visit our website, equilibriumfp.com. Thanks, guys.
Till next time.